I want to take a few minutes to talk about I guess his name was Philandro Castile. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I want to talk about the tragic incident that happened with him. If you haven't seen the unedited dash cam video, um, I urge you to watch that video. There's a very good lesson to be learned here for concealed carriers. This individual, um, he was licensed to carry a concealed firearm. He had no criminal background. He was not committing a crime. Um, he made a mistake and he got a nervous police officer, and it cost him his life. Um, and I don't want to put all the blame on Mr. Castile either. Um, the officer, he was genuinely in fear for his life. Now, in the video, you can't tell whether Mr. Castile is going for a weapon or not, but based on the officer's actions, it's pretty safe to assume that he was reaching for something, and the officer didn't know what he was reaching for, knew that he had a firearm, and unfortunately reacted and ended his life. Um, the lesson to be learned here is, if you're going to concealed carry or even open carry, you need to have a plan of how you're going to react, how you're going to interact with law enforcement for things such as a minor traffic violation. I've been in that situation before, and I can tell you from my own experience that first time that you get into a traffic stop and you are carrying a firearm, um, you feel a little bit of panic set in because you don't know how the officer is going to react when they find out that you have a firearm. Um, it's very nerve-wracking. So it's very important to have a plan for dealing with that situation. And my best advice is, once the stop is initiated, roll your window down, turn your stereo off. If it's nighttime, turn your dome light on, keep the vehicle in park, maybe even turn the engine off so they know you're not going to drive off. Um, when they're approaching, make sure you keep your hands on the steering wheel where the officer can see your hands. After you get your initial greeting out of the way, inform the officer that you're carrying a firearm. Um, that's the scary moment. Those first couple of seconds right in there, you don't know if the officer is going to draw down on you. The officer doesn't know if you're going to draw down on them, and it kind of becomes a mental Mexican standoff. Um, my best advice is to just keep your hands on the wheel. Remember, you're not breaking a law. Take a few deep breaths and just relax. You know, um, if they see you relax, they'll start to relax a little, and things will go a little bit smoother. Now, at that point, the officer will probably ask where the firearm is. Keep your hands on the wheel. Don't point to it. Don't reach for it to give it to them. Don't reach for your identification. Keep your hands on the steering wheel where the officer can see your hands. Glue your hands to the steering wheel for the duration of the stop or until the officer has either disarmed you or told you that it's okay to relax or told you to get your identification. Um, this there's a lot of controversy over this particular incident because the officer did ask for identification, and it was then that Mr. Castile informed the officer that he was carrying a firearm, and I don't believe that Mr. Castile had any intent on harming the officer. I think he was probably going for his identification, and the officer reacted thinking that he was going for a gun and unfortunately terminated this man's life. Um, there's a lot of lessons to be learned here for us concealed carriers. Um, you know, in my particular situation, the officer did end up uh, having backup show up and removing me from the vehicle and securing my firearm from me for the duration of the stop. Of course, I got it back, you know, after everything was code 4 and they were sending me on my way. However, they do completely make your firearm condition 4, which is, of course, not only the magazine out of the mag well and the chamber emptied, but they take every single bullet out of the magazine as well, which is no big deal. You the next thing I wanted to go over is, you need to have a plan for how you're going to react and interact with the police after a shooting. Heaven forbid that any of us ever has to get into a shooting, but you have to prepare yourself for how you're going to react if you do have to do something like that. Um, my best advice is once the police are on scene, either secure your weapon in your holster, put it on the ground, prone yourself out with your arms out to the side, and if they start to ask any questions, I would give them, I would say as little as possible. In fact, I would suggest that you get medical attention right away because you're probably going to feel nauseous. Um, your heartbeat is going to be skyrocketing. Um, you're you're not going to be in your right mind, and you also got to keep in mind that it's a police officer's job to gather evidence, and anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So I would advise you not to say anything without the presence of a lawyer. Get some medical assistance first, and then tell the officer that you don't want to give a statement until you've consulted with an attorney. Now it may tie you up for a while. You're probably going to go to jail for at least 24 hours. Um, but if you're not a lawyer yourself, let the lawyers figure out the legal ramifications of it. The main thing is you're alive and you've protected the lives of others around you. The main thing here is have a plan and be safe. This is another Jacketed Hollow Points. Please like and subscribe.